Okay, here we go. First of all, opening game of the Big Ten, so focus is on that and not on what's occurred this last weekend. I think that's important. History has been a tight game here. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Pat Fitzgerald, not just in what he's done at Northwestern, but in his leadership and what he's been able to do across the country from a leadership standpoint, and the continuity he's had at Northwestern going into his 14th year. 97 wins, I believe, and he's into his 14th year. So they've got continuity and has based a lot of their success on that as well. They are the defending West champions, so this will be a challenge for us. You know, offensively, when you look at them, Hunter Johnson's their quarterback, transfer from Clemson, younger player. I'm not sure whether Bowser will be playing or not. He's been out the Stanford game and missed last week, but they certainly have an opportunity. Good player Drake Anderson filled in, did a nice job this past week. Offensive line has 3 guys back. The receivers are very capable guys, big play guys, and they spread the ball around to all those guys and play all 6 of them. 88 is probably their top guys, Skonderdek, I believe. But defensively, Gaziano, 97, big defensive end. Patty Fisher, linebacker, sort of has those guys up. Mike Hankwitz is the defensive coordinator there and has been for a long time, and guy who had been at Purdue when I was a graduate assistant there, but a very meticulous guy. They'll be prepared. Special teams, solid, and we'll get ready to play. So we're going to stay upbeat. We're going to stay focused on the task at hand. And I'll take some questions.
Sorry. I know there's been some guys banged up on the offensive line, but this week we see 3 of those freshmen now on the depth chart, also Jacob down there as well. Is it just kind of a matter of guys being dinged up, or are those guys making progress, or you see them working into a role where they could play a little?
You know, all 3 of those freshmen have been working with the 2s and have been up with the 2s and have been exclusively working on the second unit. What we've done is spread the other guys around on the first unit and had them playing different positions. So I think those guys are prepared, and whether they play this week or not will remain to be seen, depending on how we're playing, depending on injuries, things of that nature. But all 3 of those guys have been up with us really throughout the whole month of August and then into September here. So they're getting ready. You know, it's just a little bit of time on the offensive line.
Mark, along those lines, with Kevin Jarvis not on the depth chart, is that long-term injuries, significant injury? What is the status update on that?
That'll probably be a 6 to 7 week injury. So I would expect him to be back by Penn State or for sure in November. So he's not a season loss guy, but he's out right now. So I thought it would be pertinent not to have him on the depth chart.
Mark, your penalties from 14 to 2 and then back to 10, most penalized team in the league now. Why is that happening, and how do you fix it?
Well, I guess you'd have to look at each penalty and try and make that assumption as to what went down on that one. But without having a list of them right in front of me, we had 3, I believe, on special teams, 3 or 4 on special teams. We had 2 roughing the passers. We had 1 hands to the face, which I think is in question. On defense. On offense, I believe we had a holding call that's in question. There's some in question, but you guys just play it out. But we got to fix that. We address it every single day. We have refs out there every single day. You got to play penalty free, which behind the 8 ball, it also takes away some of the different plays that occurred on that were positive plays. So it's frustrating, yeah.
For whatever reason, they've been able to win 3 in a row in this series against you guys and actually score some points. I think Pat was trying to explain it at media days. There's no magic to it, but how have they been able to have the edge in the series lately and actually success?
I think their quarterback played well in those games, and execution. I would say execution. And then there's been some breakdowns. Obviously, every time there's a play, there's a breakdown, and there's a team that executes and a team that has a breakdown, whether it's schematically or functionally or structurally or whatever it is.
Mark, to your left, Along the same lines with the true freshman, Julian Barnett, we saw him make a big play. Where is he sort of in his progression? Is he a guy you could see being used more as we move through the year here?
Yeah, I see him being a guy that could possibly be playing more plays. He's just, some of the routes and things of that nature, he needs to become a little bit more maybe crisp in terms of where he's going. But I think he's extremely capable. I also think Mosley's a guy that we'll see before the season's out as well. I think he's coming as well. Young players, good players, very good players.
And going to Northwestern, it seems like there's nothing I've charted, but it seems like there's more Michigan State fans there than most other places you go, and you tend to have a lot of support there. What is it like going there? Does it feel like still an away game? Is it a little bit different because you usually have so much alumni there?
Yeah, Chicago's a great Michigan State hub. There's a lot of Spartan fans there. Traditionally, every time we've gone up there, it's been that whole side has been packed with Michigan State fans, and I would expect the same type of thing. And it's a fun place to play because we're up there, and it should be good from that perspective.
Mark, your teams have suffered difficult non-conference losses before making a run through the Big Ten. What do you see from this group, this team in this locker room that leads you to believe this is possible game?
I think we have a positive vibe in the locker room. I think we have good chemistry. I've said that over and over throughout. And when you have a situation like this, we could have, we could be 3-0 right now, but we're not. At the end of the day, you've got to regroup. You can't stand there and say, you can't have the poor meetings. You can't sit there and say, oh, all is lost. Oh my goodness, what just happened? You have to rally back. I think that's very important that you rally back in terms of what you're trying to do. This is a team game. This is a game that mandates a lot of different things, whether it's coaching or whether it's execution or whether it's playing against guys that are equally physically gifted as you are. And there's always a I guess, what is it, a yin for a yang or something like that. There's always a push and a pull. It goes back and forth all the time. So you got to have respect for the people that you're playing against, and you got to be able to play past that. But the main thing that you better be able to do is you better be able to regroup when things go wrong with your program or inside or you personally. You better be able to regroup. If you can't regroup, then that's a problem. We will regroup. I can promise you that. We will coach with energy. I can promise you that. I can promise you that we will address the issues, and we're going to continue to get better. And I think that there are a lot of good things that are happening. I think the work he's playing very well. When your quarterback's playing well, great things are going to happen for you. So we've got some younger players playing, trying to figure out where and what, to some degree, and to some degree, younger players, whether it's a redshirt freshman or a true freshman. Got some guys injured up a little bit, so they'll be coming back, but our focus needs to be on, okay, what do we got to do now? What's important now? And that's what we'll do.
We're kind of going back to that left tackle spot. Is there any progress with either Cole or AJ? And when you make that decision of putting Higby there over Dobbs, how much of that is based on continuity and the knowledge that Tyler has as a veteran?
Yeah, it's knowledge based. I think that it's knowledge based and youth based, combination of both. And I thought Higby went in there and played pretty well from everything that was given to me and indicated to me. So he's first man up, but I would expect for Dobbs to possibly play. And, he's got to get ready to play, so there'll be a little bit more sense of urgency, maybe, is what I would say. When you're playing, it's different. When you get in the game, all of a sudden, everything becomes a little bit more important in practice. So, we're going to push the issue there a little bit, especially on the depth chart, so that they understand that. We've not listed them on the depth chart in that capacity because we just haven't, but they've worked there as the twos, like I said, so they should be ready to go. We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out.
Cole and AJ, any update on that?
Cole and AJ probably remain the same. They're sort of day-to-day, maybe Cole, but they're both sort of day-to-day. I would just say right now they're out day-to-day. I don't think I listed them on the depth chart. Yeah.
Sorry. Last week you had mentioned taking your girls to a Shania Twain concert and how it was one of maybe the best concerts that you had been to. But after the game, I noticed that they were one of the first few people to greet you on the field after what would have been a tumultuous ending. How do they help you recenter and regroup and help you in times like that to get you back on track or help you focus?
Well, you know, I think first of all, you better have a strong family unit, you know, if you're gonna be the head coach anywhere. You know, that'll always help, and they're my biggest, you know, my two girls are my biggest supporters, and Becky, my wife, and, you know, they're gonna be there in the toughest of times, just like I'm gonna try and be, and they're gonna stand strong in that capacity as well. And they've done a great job throughout their time, both Lauren and Kristen, and they've seen some good, they've seen some tough times, and that's the nature of it. And they need to understand that their dad's okay, don't worry. That's my message to them all the time, so. But yeah, you know, they were there. They always will be.
Mark, seemed like a lot more two-back sets on Saturday.
What?
Two running backs.
Mhm.
Whether it was Connor Ladarius or getting backs in there also. I guess how would you assess that, and how do you see that kind of evolving going forward?
You know, right now, I believe Elijah got the majority of the carries, and we'll work from there. We'll work from there. I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, this guy's going to play or that guy's going to play. We'll watch practice. We'll try and make some decisions. I think Elijah's the lead back right now, but the other guys, they've all made a play here and there at certain points in times in their careers here. So, again, you're looking for consistency. Be able to run through the smoke, run through break tackles.
To your left. I believe you just said we will address the issues. What do you see as the issues right now, and how do you fix them?
Well, we need to be more productive. We need to score more points. I think we crossed the 57 times. We had, I think, 7. Don't quote me on the number of drives with 8+ plays, but over 4, which is always your goal. We had explosive plays, which is your goal. We only turned the ball over one time, but it was a crucial turnover. It was in question, I guess, but you know, it is what it is. But you got to be productive. You got to make your field goals. Gives you at least 9 more points. You got to drive the ball in the red zone and push it in for touchdowns. And then on the flip side of things, you know, you got to play well on 4th and 13. Get off the field on 4th and 13. And hey, we just talked about 10-7. We won a national championship winning games 10-9, 14-10, 13-9. So it, you know, it's all grouped together. Everything's grouped together. It's not one dimensional thing that says, oh, this is wrong completely. You know, when people have an opportunity to make a play or coach for a play, including myself, and I hold myself ultimately responsible, okay, then you got to make a play. And credit number 5, he made a play. But there were some things on that particular play on 4th and 13 that could have been prevented. And, you know, but the decision was made to play that particular defense at that particular time, right, wrong, or indifferent. Same thing could be said about the field goal. Same thing could be said about whether to take a shot at the end of the game. Believe me, I'm trying to do everything I can. I'm out there with a stopwatch every single pass play yesterday, timing every single pass play. You know, but there's a lot of different things that could happen on those pass plays that would lend you to say, oh, if you got sacked, or, you know, ball's caught in bounds, you know, you're not going to get another playoff. So there's a lot going on there. But you're trying to prevent the things that can be prevented. But it's all inclusive. There is no one thing that you can say, oh, that is ultimately the reason why we lost this football game. You can sit there and say we needed to score more points. That's sort of, I think that's elementary, sort of. You got to score more than they score. But you could also make the case that, you know, 4th and 13 on the 25, out of 10 times, how many are going to stop them with our defense? You could make that case too. So there's enough responsibility to go around, and we'll take responsibility for that, and I will take responsibility, but there's a lot of things to fix, and it's game to game. Just like there's a lot of things you can point towards and say, that was good, and that's game to game too. But you're just trying to coach it up. But the main thing that, I guess the main message that I have is, we're going to coach them up, and we're going to make sure that we coach with energy this week. We're going to make sure that everybody's all in with energy, and we're going to come to play. That's the first thing we have to do.
I got 2 again, one at a time. Yeah. When the Pac-12 issues a statement saying their officials erred on that last play, does that make you feel better or worse?
Well, the Pac-12 issues a statement. If they said the game gets forfeited, you know, maybe I'd feel better. Other than that, I really don't care. It's sort of after the fact. It's sort of after the fact. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't sit up here and go on and on about it, so I'm not going to. Everybody's got a job to do. I'm going to do my job the best of my ability. They need to do their job the best of their ability and call it as they see it. So they issued an apology, but that hasn't, sort of in the wind.
You outlined your respect for Pat. Somebody said recently that every time there's a coaches event with Big Ten coaches, you and Pat somehow migrate together. What's the connection between you two other than respect? Anything?
No, I think that in a lot of ways, we think similar. I think in terms, especially outside of the game, in terms of maybe administratively, within coachings, in terms of maybe rules and things like that. And he's got a lot of respect for him. He's very easy to talk to. He's done a great job leading. I think he leads with integrity. And, he's been a constant. And, there's something to that. When you've been a constant, you've gone through the tough times, you've gone through the good times. There's something to be able to do with that. I guess it's an admirable trait.
Mark, over here to your left, you mentioned the offensive drives and some of them, 7, 8 plays. It's not like you're going 3 and out every time, but it seems like there's one thing on every different drive or whatever that. How do you widen your margin for error there? How do you pinpoint, with several different things that are going on, but it can't be maybe one play decides a drive or something? How do you get over that?
Well, that's coaching and that's execution. And, we're playing or performance-based or whatever it is, but, I'm here to tell you that we're not playing on air out there. We don't go out there and line up on air, which means there's nobody in front of you. You're playing against people who are prepared for your stuff too, so it's constant, whether we're on defense or on special teams or on offense. There is an opposition to what you're doing. And so you have to defeat the opposition. And there's a lot that goes into that because the opposing team has good players as well. And you have to be able to defeat them. So it's not perfect. What we have found is if you have explosive plays, that's your best way to score points long term. It's very difficult to have an 18-play drive where something doesn't happen to set you back. So you got to have explosive plays, which we had. We had a couple of them maybe taken away from a penalty or whatever, but I think we had 7 big plays. Big play passes over 20 yards, 6 of those, and 1 big play run over 15, which is what we term as explosive. So it usually leads to points, but then in the red zone, prior to the red zone, you've got to make a play. And we stalled out. And therein is the case for probably the loss. That and our inability, which we've been good kicking field goals, our inability, to, I guess, execute in those situations.
Mark, there was a time early in your coaching career when Northwestern couldn't win 3 inter-squad games. Now they won 3 straight bowl games. They took Ohio State into the 4th quarter last year. What does that say about the job there and competitive balance in this league?
Well, the balance in this league is noticeable, especially when you're coaching. I mean, you feel it. You can feel it every single week. People get ready to play you. And what it says about Northwestern is what I mentioned earlier, that Coach Fitzgerald's done a tremendous job there, has his guys ready to play week in and week out, and they're extremely competitive. And they've raised that competitive level over the years. But they've always been, it's always been a competitive game, I think. You can go back to 13, we might win the game 30-6, but it's competitive. Sometimes the scores get lost in the transition, a 10-point game to me is a competitive game. 10-point win for the fan set is not. It's different. It just depends on what seat you sit in and where you're at. Because you're looking at every little nuance, I think, as a coach. He's done a tremendous job. Their entire program has.
And now they're in the facilities realm with everybody else, which they weren't before.
Yeah, they've got new facilities, and that's something that other people are pointing towards as well, and that's something that will be addressed here as well in the near future, probably.
Mark, kind of the flip side to Nick's question about widening the margin of error on offense, how difficult is it for a defense when there is such a slim margin of error for them when one drive at the end after
Yeah, I understand that too.
3.5 quarters of a game.
Yeah.
What are the challenges for those defensive players, either mentally or physically at that moment?
Yeah, be perfect. That's the challenge. Be perfect. We gave up one deep ball. You know, on the 35, one deep ball puts them down on the 25. And that's difficult to stomach because that's may seem unfair, but you know, you got to play every play, and everybody's got to. It's a team game, and you can't sit there and say what if and if only, because that separates people. And we don't want to separate people. Ultimately, this is a team game, and you win and lose together. And so that's what we have to do. But yeah, you got to play perfect. And I just said about this press conference going way too long, but just said, you know, we won a national championship at Ohio State by winning close games, low-scoring games. So it can be done. We must do things like that to win, and that's what we'll do. But, you know, we're going to do what we got to do, and the only thing that I've ever asked from our players is to compete, play hard, and play courageously. And that's what we're going to do. And I don't see any indication that we're not doing that.
Mark, you mentioned regrouping. Does it help to do that it's the Big Ten opener, where it's kind of, maybe does it feel like a bit of a fresh start?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I've come in here and said, hey, you know, we go through phases here. Well, this is phase 3 now. Phase 3 started whether we won or lost. Everything else gets wiped away. If we were 3-0 right now, we'd be wiped away too. Now, maybe not for the peripheral people, but in the big scheme of things, this game is more important than the last game. And the next game will always be more important. When we play 3 out of the next 4 away, it's that part of the season where we got to go on the road and be road warriors, so we got to take that chip or whatever you want to say with us, and we got to make sure that we're ready, we're prepared mentally, emotionally, and mentally, physically too, but emotionally and mentally ready to play, and we're going to do that. Very good. Next.